What's up, everybody? I'm Professor Random, and welcome back to the audiobook series. This is part 7 in the series, and we're going to continue reading Among the Hidden by Margaret Peterson Haddix in the Shattered Children series. Today we're going to be reading another 2-page chapter, which is Chapter 6, because we finished off in Chapter 5 when the government said, now you have to give the hogs away, or get rid of them at least, because the developers do not want hog smelly smells going into the developers or houses that they're going to be building. And so everything seems to just be going wrong at this point. We'll see what happens in the next chapter, hoping things will lighten up, but seems like things will just go downhill, you know. No. Anyways, so let's get started in Chapter 6, even though it's probably, it's only 2 pages. The tax bill arrived 2 weeks later, the day that Dad and Matthew and Mark loaded the hogs onto the livestock trailer and took them all away. Most were going to the slaughterhouse. The ones too young and too small to bring a decent price were going to an auction for feeder pigs. Luke watched through the vent at the front of the house as Dad drove by in the battered pickup with each load. Matthew and Mark sat in the back of the pickup, making sure the trailer stayed hitched straight. Even 3 stories up, Luke could see Matthew's hand-dog expression. Then, when the 3 of them came into the house for dinner, after watching the last of the hogs melt off their hands in the mudroom, Dad handed Mother the tax bill without comment. She put down the wooden spoon and she'd be using it to stir the stew and had folded the letter. Then she dropped it. Why, she seemed to be doing the math in her head as she bent to retrieve it. That's 3 times is what it usually is. There must be a mistake. Dad shook his head grimly. No mistake. I talked to the Williker at the auction. The Willikers were their nearest neighbors, with a house 3 miles down the road. Wow, nearest neighbors. Well, it's true, because they live on the farm, I guess, and kind of separates them, but where I am, we have like an acre separation, because I don't live in the suburbs, but I live in like a country-ish area. So, Luke always pictured them with monster scales and fierce claws because of the number of times he'd been cautioned. You don't want the Willikers to see you. Dad went on. Williker says they raised everyone's taxes because of them fancy houses. Makes our land worth more. Isn't that good? Luke asked. Isn't that good? Luke asked eagerly. It was strange that he would hate the new houses for replacing his woods and forcing him to stay indoors, but he'd half fallen in love with them, having watched every foundation poured, every wooden skeleton of walls and roofs raised to the sky. They were his main entertainment, aside from talking to Mother when she came upstairs for what she called my Luke breaks. Sometimes she pretended his room needed cleaning as badly as the bread needed baking or the garden needed weeding. Sometimes she just sat and talked. Dad was shaking his head in disgust over Luke's question. No, it's only good if we were selling, and we ain't. All it means for us is that the government thinks that they can get more money out of us. Matthew was slumped in his chair at the table. How are we going to pay? He asked. That's more than we got for all the hogs. And that was supposed to carry us through for a long time. Dad didn't answer. Even Mark, who normally had a smart alecky comeback for everything, was stupefied. Mother had turned back to her stew. I got my work permit today, she said softly. The factory's hiring. If I get on there, I can maybe get an advance on my paycheck. Luke's jaw dropped. You can't go to work, he said. He wanted to say, who will stay with me? Who will I talk to all day when everyone else is outside? But that seemed too selfish. Luke looked around. No one else looked surprised by Mother's news. He shut up his mouth. And, as I said, 2 pages. It's the end of Chapter 6, and soon we're going to be going on to Chapter 7. I'm amazed. Like, at the same time, it's kind of cool how short the chapters are, but I just don't get it. Anyways, so that is the end of Chapter 6. I hope you enjoyed this video, because I am enjoying this book too so far. It's pretty good. Margaret Peterson Haddix doing a good job on it, besides the short chapters and everything that's a little sketchy about it, but it seems like it's a pretty cool book. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like in the, middle of the page, if it's in the middle of the page, but leave a like down there. And I'll see you in the next video at Chapter 7. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye!